What was fun to watch last night was the last 50-something seconds of that Lightning game at Amalie Arena. Brayden Point with the incredible goal to send the Lightning fans home happy at Amalie. And we bring in for his weekly hit, the one and only Erik Erlendsson, lightninginsider.com. Sign up for lightninginsider.com right now. Use that promo code JNZ. Get $10 off, not just this year, but every recurring season after that. What's up, Double E? How are you?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Good. What kind of hat is that you got there, buddy? Maroons. Okay. Old
Montreal
school.
Maroons. Yeah.
Nice.
Gift of young Kevin, who gave it as a Christmas gift, not this year, but last year.
Young Kevin. We're going to call you Montreal Maroons and Spoons. I think that's a great. That's a great. Well, I want to start here because I mentioned this a little bit on my Recher's Rapid Reaction last night. That could have been the worst game I've ever seen Nikita Kucherov play. Don't look at the stats because Bobby the Chief Taylor and I were looking at the stats. He only had one giveaway. There was at least 4. He's just forcing it so much right now. He's not feeling too great. He's trying to make passes that aren't there. But less than a minute to go, he's the guy that makes the pass to Brayden Point in front. Of course, Pointer makes an incredible play, but Nikita Kucherov, the vision, the ability to make that pass, even though he's having just a terrible game. I mean, that says all you need to know about elite hockey players, where it sometimes just takes one moment.
That's why, like, I know it can be frustrating to watch sometimes, and trust me, my social media mentions show that from time to time. I think I had somebody say last night, I'm looking forward to the 7th Nikita Kucherov turnover to cost them this game, right? Because he sees the game different than anybody else. And I mean anybody else. So I guarantee you don't think, what is he thinking when he knows what he's thinking? He's trying to, and you said it best, he was trying to force some things.
Right.
And when they went into the game last night, having just scored a total of 3 goals in the previous 3 games and 5 over the previous 4, he's counted on to produce offense. Him and Point and Gensel, I mean, these guys are paid to produce offense, and they didn't come through in the match, the 3 games in California. So he was pressing. There's no doubt. I think, I thought Brayden Point was pressing on the road trip as well. And look, he had that great breakaway opportunity where Kucherov made an old school poke check early in the game to kind of disrupt things. But that's why you don't give up on players who are just on a different level. And we know Nikita Kucherov is on a different level. To, like, you go through, like, go frame by frame of that play. And, it starts with Hedman collecting the puck in the neutral zone. He throws it back against the wall. Jay Gensel does a good job of rimming it back around to Nikita Kucherov. Start your frame by frame there and just watch Kuch just take that quick peek. He knows what's going on, and he's got such great chemistry with Brayden Point. He knows what could happen. Not that it will happen, but he knows what could happen. So you can see the instant that Brayden Point recognizes the opportunity that's about to happen. And he just takes a quick couple of strides to get right to that soft area that opened up right in front of the slot, because Carolina didn't think the puck was going there.
Right.
Because why would you? But that's Nikita Kucherov. So you watch all of that develop, and you understand the gift that Nikita Kucherov has, the vision that he has to see things that not many other players in this league are going to identify and recognize in the instant that he did. And before Carolina knew what happened, Pointer's open in the middle of the slot because Kucherov makes the great pass. Point makes an unbelievable play and recognition on his own right in a 1.1 second amount of time to figure all that out. I mean, it's goal of the year stuff. It was that good of a play. And, for a team that was struggling to score some goals on the trip, not that he didn't have chances. I mean, they had chances in all 3 of those games. They probably should have won in LA, and they could have won the other 2 games. I don't think they played particularly well against San Jose, but, for a team that went into that game with all of the challenges stacked against them, including arriving back in Tampa at 5:00 on Monday afternoon and then have to turn around and play Carolina 24 hours later. It was almost the perfect way to snap out of that 3-game losing streak with, Brayden Point, Yeah, occasionally he lets out some emotion. He doesn't let out a lot of emotion sometimes with regular season goals. You saw it in his
Right.
celebration last night. There was some emotion. So it was, I don't want to say it was a weight lifted off their shoulder, but just everything that kind of was going against them into that game to win it in that manner. That's a pretty uplifting kind of way to win the game. And it starts with a superstar player who's struggling on a night. You all it takes is an instant, and that's what Nikita Kucherov delivered to another player who knows how to make things happen in an instant.
I think also too, it also meant a lot, or it provided that much more emotion because you're playing a team like Carolina, right? I say Carolina is like a mirror. Carolina Hurricanes are a mirror. They show you exactly who you are, because if you are not going to be disciplined, if you're not going to play defense, they're going to outskate you. They're going to shoot the puck and get as many shots on goal as humanly possible. I don't know what they ended, because we know the stats change in the spirit of the great Mark Dittler, but it looked like shots were 32 apiece. I thought the Lightning did a decent job of kind of keeping them into the outside. It wasn't a ton of grade A chances for Carolina, and if you can do that, I think you can win. And I haven't been as high as on Carolina than I know a lot of other people. They seem like the sexy pick to win every year. I don't think they go to the net nearly enough. I don't think they take enough chances to go to the net and to go to the dirty areas. I think when you can play them the way you did last night, I mean, just think about it. Vasi gives up that one cheapie, right? And other than that, like, yeah, they do go to the dirty area to get that goal, but I thought the Lightning played a pretty solid contest last night. I still don't, even though Kochetkov, I think, made some nice saves, like their goalie for the last couple of years, Freddie Anderson. I mean, some people think he's good, but at times he's facing 18 shots a night. Like, how do you know how good that guy's going to be until you see him in the postseason? So I believe that, again, but they are disciplined. Rod Brind'Amour is a great coach, but when you beat a team like that and you have the skill of a Brayden Point to be able to do that, I think that's why I always have the Lightning over Carolina. And you mentioned Nikita Kucherov and his vision. That's something that Brayden Point told us in the locker room last night. Even when you don't think that Nikita Kucherov sees you, he sees you. I thought that was such a subtle, perfectly articulated line about the greatness and almost the subtle greatness of Nikita Kucherov, because he looks before he even gets to the puck. And not a lot of people do that. And then you and I talk about this. You see it a lot in soccer because you have so much more time. You have so much more time for the ball to get to you. And you're just playing, obviously, on the pitch that's much bigger on the ice. But he almost takes that soccer approach of before you even get to that area, forget the puck, the area, I'm going to kind of have an idea of where my players are at. And I love watching him do his thing, even though, a bunch of turnovers last night. I want to ask you about a guy in Conor Geekie. And I mentioned this last night to Chief, of 1 point in 9 games. He had a point last night, got a plus, which was good to see. I know he's a rookie, right? So I'm not trying to act like this guy's not, he doesn't, that I understand that has to be part of the conversation, but I think there's more in there when it comes to playing with a little bit more of a snarl, getting to the net. I think he's playing a little bit too much on the periphery. If you can take out the he's a rookie part of this discussion, what do you see from his game, and can he improve? I think he can, but do you see that same similar thing where he's not as aggressive, and it seems like he might be thinking a little bit too much?
Well, I don't wonder if the shoulder's bothering him.
Yeah,
Right, he
that
took
too,
that
right?
stumble right before Christmas,
Mhm.
missed the game at Sunrise on the 23rd. So you don't know if that factors into it, and he would never tell you anyway if it
Right.
was right. But yeah, I mean, look, he's 20 years old, used to playing against players who are in a lot of ways smaller than him.
Mhm.
Certainly, there's other skilled players for sure, but he's used to being one of the top skilled guys on his team. He's that good of a junior player. And look, this is why he's only the second 20-year-old in the Yzerman / Breezeblatt era to make the jump straight from juniors to the NHL, because they like their younger players to season themselves at the AHL level, because it's a different game at the AHL level. You have to fight more for your space. At that level than you do at the NHL. It's crazy as that to sound. It's just the way the game is played
Right.
in the A. So he's adjusting to a different type of game he has to play. And for sure, there's more there this year. You see the potential, though. 3-4 years down the road, he gets some more muscle on him and understands the game and understands the league better, understands the time and space that he has compared to what he thinks he has. It's going to start coming for him in a more consistent basis. And that's why you don't wonder if, you're looking ahead to March and the trade deadline. Are they looking for a middle six guy who could potentially play second line? Look, Geekie's played very well with Hagel and Cirelli. And, and the other part of it too is, as a 20-year-old, even in the Western League, where you play 60 some odd games, now you're playing 80 games, and you're playing 80 games against guys that you have to be physically up against on a nightly basis. And, that's why I always say sometimes rookies hit a wall, and I'm not saying he's hit a wall, but you can't tell me it hasn't taken its toll, especially now, right now, in the middle of this month and this schedule that they have. This is a tough stretch. Yeah. That he kind of has to get back to a mentality of, what earned him a spot on this team coming out of training camp. That sort of snarl and the willingness to kind of get to those areas. And, those will come. The goals will come. The assists will come. The physicality. I think he's second on the team in hits among forwards on the team. So he still has that part of his game. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he has to be more of a consistent player in some of those harder areas to get to, because as we know, that's where the goals are scored. And if I'm not mistaken, that's where he scored his first goal. I didn't get a tip against Washington, sort of in the slot area. So he has to get to that area a little bit more often for sure. But look, he's also playing with two guys in Cirelli and Hagel who are such ferocious forecheckers, right? Those guys already show how willing they are to get to those areas. So it's part of that is reading off of your line mates as well.
Yeah, I think that's where I look at it. I don't look at it as much of like I do want him to play with more snarl. I do want him to be a little bit more of a Brad Marchand than Alex Barkov. But I look at the soft spots of the ice, right? I always think back to Jaromir Jagr, where guys would be down low and Jagr would just back up ever so slightly to just be away and drift away, and the puck always came to him. And I just think that's one of the big parts of his growth that he really needs to work on, because Cirelli and Hagel, they're in their prime. Like, they know exactly what it takes to be contributors at the NHL level. They're going to be playing for Team Canada. Like, they know what their game is all about and what they need to do to be successful. And I know it's tough for him as a rookie. I just hope that he can speed up that process a little bit, because I don't think it needs to wait that long. I think it's there. I just think it's a confidence thing and maybe an injury thing. You mentioned something about a trade and trying to get a second line guy or a middle six guy. I feel like the balance is off a little bit offensively for this team, because I see Nick Paul sometimes and I'm like, man, this guy can really shoot the puck. He scored a goal last night. I think on other teams, he might be a second line center, but it just seems like Cirelli's been groomed for that spot. And Nick Paul's on that third line. And I just don't know if the caliber of players that he's playing with is really going to accentuate his offensive gifts. If they do make a deal, you would have to think a middle six guy, because to me, and this is no knock on Gonçalves and Chaffee, but I feel like they have 5 fourth line forwards, to go. And I got no issue with Glendening and Zergensen's and whoever else they seem to play there. But I feel like this team is missing a forward or two to kind of really get the line set in a spot where you don't even have to think twice. And, we always go back to that third line of Gord, Goodrow, and Coleman. Like, they didn't have to move those guys. Nobody questioned, like, those should be fourth line guys. Those should be second line guys. It was like, that was your third line. You knew Maroon and Belmar and those guys were on the fourth line, and that was your third line. How do they rectify that? I'd say that bottom six, to make sure that there's a little bit more skill on that third line, and you kind of lock in with the guys that can play their ass off on the fourth line. Because I don't see that offensive production coming from Asamont, Gonçalves, Chaffee, and I'm just going to exclude Glendening and Gergensons, because that's your fourth line pair.
Yeah. If you could unlock Gage Gonçalves offensively, I think you'd have your answer. The problem is that you haven't yet. And he's
is that going to come though? I mean, that's the thing.
That's the question, right? You don't know that. You've seen it He certainly had a couple of the past 2 years in particular. You saw the exponential growth in his game. That's why he's getting the opportunity to kind of be here. And, you saw some of the playmaking ability that he has when he first came up, and again, we're still talking about a rookie. What is he, 23, 24 years old, trying to find his game, but like he's not shooting the puck. He's not getting to some of those areas that we just talked about with Conor Geekie. You see the ability and you wonder why it's not there. Like, what does he have? He only has 2 points. I think he has a goal and assist to this point. So, the potential is there. So if you could unlock it and find a way, and I think that's why you've seen Eyssimont moved up to that third line because he's been much more noticeable in the last little while. I know it hasn't shown up on the scoreboard, but, he's such a pest. He's been around the net. He's doing his job effectively at getting under other teams' skin. So he's been much more effective in the role that he plays, and that's why Gonçalves has been playing fourth lines with Glendening and Girgensons. Now, that's not going to unlock Gonçalves' game, but I think it's an opportunity for the coaching staff to kind of subtle message to him, hey, you need to be better. You want to get back up, playing on a third line role and earn some more minutes. You got to do some more of this because I think Eyssimont has done that. So if that doesn't come, and even if it does, can you count on that in April? It's a good question, and we don't know the answer to that. But that's why I think if you are going to look down the line at March, that's probably similar to last year when they brought in Anthony Duclair in a similar situation, a middle six guy. He was more of a top six guy because he's played first and second line when he was brought over here. That type of a mold of player who can be flexible and move up and down and bring a little bit more consistent offensive threat to the lineup. And you're right. I think at that point you do balance the lines out because let's face it, they have maybe a little bit more depth than we thought, right? Mitchell Chafee has 7 goals and Nick Paul became the 6th guy to hit the 10-goal mark last night. So they have maybe a little bit more offensive depth than we thought going into the season. But they're still reliant on 5 guys, right? It's the top 5 guys. And you saw those guys all struggle to score in California, and that's part of the reason they only scored 3 goals in those 3 games because those guys weren't producing. And that's where you needed maybe a Gonçalves to step up or, Girgensons to get his first goal of the season. That guy's snake bit right now. He can't find, the opportunities that he does create to get in the back of the net. So you need that when your top guys aren't doing it, which just kind of highlights and magnifies the fact that it's Cirelli and Hagel and Point and Kucherov and Gensel that have to carry the load offensively. And if they're not, you're going to have stretches like they did in California. So, yeah, if that and depth defense, I think, is something that when we get to March is something you're going to look at that Julian will probably try and bring in.
It's funny you just mentioned Girgensons. The Latvian tradition, the good luck charm, is a lilac flower with 5 petals. It is believed to bring luck and is used for making wishes. The flower can be eaten or dried and kept close by, such as in a book, pocket, or wallet. Because he had a great chance in front of the net last night, forehand, backhand, and Kucherov made a nice save. I think that's what we got to do, man. We got to find a lilac flower with 5 petals.
It's much better than a live chicken.
I got Jobu right here, buddy. Jobu's always ready.
Of course you do.
We gotta pray to Jobu. My buddy Frankie's been asking for this for so long, but I stole Jobu. He's always right by my side right here. Darren Raddysh last night, 50 points, quickest Lightning defenseman to 50 points. I mean, you think about the Dan Boyles of the world and the Victor Hedmans of the world. It was Darren Raddysh that was the guy that got closest to, the fastest to 50 points. I mean, I was surprised, but I got to admit. But this is a guy that bided his time, played in the minors for a while, and has come up here, and he's a guy he's a pro's pro. Just talking to him, you feel good for a guy like that. And he's a family guy. We obviously saw his brother up here, but I was surprised that he was the first guy to 50 points. How about you?
Yeah, I had to do double check on that myself.
Yeah.
But it's like, didn't make sense. Now he's a little older, right? He didn't get in the league till 27, 28 years old. So, his game is a little bit more refined than maybe some of those other players. I mean, when Dan Boyle got here, that's, he wasn't getting ice time because all he was offense, right? And he had to learn that part of the game. And, Pablo Kubina had that record before. He got big minutes because of, the type that he could play, and he played on some power play time. And Victor Hedman, again, Rick Tocchet, that rookie year, kind of eased him into the lineup a little bit and didn't put too much pressure on him as they taught him to be more of a defensive guy. Whereas Raddysh comes in, is a little bit older. He understands who he is and what his game is all about. So he's more comfortable, I think, in making some plays that maybe a 21-year-old defenseman wouldn't be necessarily comfortable making. But it's a credit to him. You see so many different paths for players to reach the NHL, and Raddysh certainly took a different route. He was undrafted despite really good numbers in junior. He was on some powerhouse Erie teams, put up huge offensive numbers for them. But he had some defensive deficiencies in his game that had a lot of people concerned, but he just kept working, and he kept working, and he kept working. He got his opportunity, and now he's a regular in the lineup. And even this year, Darren Raddysh was a healthy scratch a good portion of the early part of the season.
Yeah.
Right. Because JJ Moser's hurt right now. So he's been Victor Hedman's partner with Moser out. So even through this year, kind of dealing with some of those situations and waiting for his time to come. And he's done it just like he's done his entire career. And you do feel good. Those are feel good stories for guys. I'm sure he's probably surprised to find out that he's the quickest to 50 points among defensemen in franchise history. But yeah, you like to see those type of stories play out the way that Darren's has, the hard route to get to the NHL.
Yeah, I wanted to look up that 2016-2017 Erie Otters team where he had 81 points, good for third on the team. Alex DeBrincat was on the team. His brother Taylor was on the team. Dylan Strome was on the team. Warren Fogle was on the team. And then, Anthony Cirelli and Erik Chernak are on the team as well.
Cirelli was a late season addition,
mm-hmm.
But Cirelli had already been a Memorial Cup champion. He had the overtime game-winning goal in the Memorial Cup the year before Cirelli did. But yeah, that team was stacked, and that was, just after Connor McDavid left.
Yeah, you look at that 20. That's the team that I think 2014, 2015, Dylan Strome, Connor McDavid, Alex DeBrincat, Darren Raddysh, Travis Dermott, Curtis McDermott, Taylor Raddysh, and Mason Marchment. Woo! That was a squad right there. Those Erie teams are no joke.
Yep.
No joke at all. What'd you make of the World Juniors? Team USA winning gold second year in a row. Pretty happy about that.
Yeah, boy, did they grind that tournament out. Right?
Yeah, especially that last game, down 3-1 to the Finns, and they just they went about it the right way. They just really started grinding and forechecking, and you could see their skill matched with their effort really got them back into that game. And then Finland was they just couldn't match up with them. They just kept flying. And to see Stiga as the guy that scored his first goal the entire tournament, he scores the game winner. Nashville Predators fan, they're going to love that guy. I loved Zeev Buium, the left-handed defenseman that's going to be a member of the Minnesota Wild. That dude is
what a pass.
Unreal. Ryan Leonard is going to be the new Brad Marchand, I think, pissing people off as a member of the Capitals. And then Gabe Perreault for the Rangers, for all the craziness that's going on there. There's a lot of good young players there for Team USA. Canada does not medal. And I wonder, does any of that unease carry over to the Four Nations face-off? I know they're two completely different teams, two completely different coaching staffs, but this is the next opportunity for Team Canada to play in an international contest against, and this is best on best, U.S., Finland, Sweden to go alongside Canada. Where do you think the pressure is going to lie when it comes to Team Canada and coming out on top in this thing?
First of all, you forgot to mention Lane Hudson.
Oh, yeah.
Cole Hudson, Lane's brother.
Lane's brother, yeah.
Yeah, Cole Hudson, first defenseman to ever lead that tournament in scoring, which tells you something. Now, some great forwards have certainly come through the World Juniors, but great performance by Team USA. It starts with an easy game against Germany, and then I think the rest of it, even against Latvia, they had to, Latvia surprised a lot of people. Obviously, they beat Canada, and they gave Sweden the scare in the quarterfinals. So they had to grind out every game, and that's a credit to David Carl, the coach there, who got a lot of skilled players to understand you have to grind things out. And even in a short tournament that has a history of blowouts, they were able to find their way to kind of grind things through. As far as any carryover to the Four Nations, I don't think there's any. Different management teams.
I'm
different.
talking more about, I guess, the fans. Like the fans looking at it like this is our sport. We didn't even medal. God, we better do something in this Four Nations face-off.
I don't get that sense, just because it's NHL players, and certainly there will be a faction of Canadian fans that are like, "Oh my goodness, are we not the hockey power we once were?" And guess what? I hate to break this news to Canadian fans, they're not. All you got to do is look at the rosters for this Four Nations, and sure, you've got McKinnon and you've got McDavid and Brayden Point. I mean, you got obviously some top skilled players that you're going to have. But, I think back to that 2010 Olympic team that Canada had. And, Roberto Luongo, and this was kind of the start of their trend of goaltenders who are they're not elite goaltenders. And, but in that tournament, Luongo didn't have to be. He was towards the tail end of his career, obviously, because the defense was so damn good that if anybody sniffed the net, they were taken out. There were no rebound opportunities. There were no second chance opportunities. And now you look at Canada, and I don't know if they have that type of defense anymore. They don't have the Niedermayers and, those kind of guys that could just kind of erase everything around the net. And then you look at you're contemplating whether Sam Montembeault is your number one guy. And that's not a knock on Sam Montembeault, but
he wouldn't be in the discussion if he wasn't playing with the Canadians. That's just the way it goes. And
you look at the goalies for the other three teams in this nation, and it doesn't even count Russia, right? With Vasilevsky and Shesterkin and Samsonov and the quality, the quality of goaltenders that Russia puts out there. It's not even in the same tier. So in terms of producing the depth that Canada has in the past, no, it's not there. I would say on paper, the U.S. is probably the favorite. I mean, just their goaltending alone, and they've got an underrated defensive core, and they've got guys who can score and check and everything else. And we'll see what Austin Matthews' status is. He's obviously been in and out of the lineup for the Maple Leafs here, so
he better be playing.
Yeah. Kevin's listening somewhere, going, "You're damn right, he better be playing."
Better be playing.
There's always going to be pressure on Canada. Especially with some of the games taking place in Montreal. And there will be factions of Canadian fans who are going to have that thought process. Wait a second, we're the greatest hockey-producing nation in the world. But the rest of the world is caught up.
Yep.
The rest of the world is caught up to Canada, U.S., their development program. I mean, kudos to USA Hockey, who has put together this national development program. And, you look at the players that they're producing. I mean, first round pick after first round pick after first round pick. And that's why they won back-to-back gold medals at the World Junior Tournament. And guess what? The World Juniors is on U.S. soil next year in St. Paul and Minneapolis. And, they're going to have a strong chance to be a three-peat team. So that's why the U.S. has started to produce some of these top elite type of players, the Eichels, the Matthews, the Zach Werenskis and these type of players, Cole Caulfield, that have come through, even though Caulfield's not even on the USA roster. They've come through the development program and put themselves out there as, arguably the top producing nation in the world of depth and talents in the hockey community. I think on paper, the only country that you could say that now is probably Russia, but they're not in this tournament.
Yeah, it's pretty wild that they're not involved. I mean, I remember being at the All-Star game last year and people were asking some of the Russians and asking Pasternak and Leon Draisaitl, and they're like, "We don't care. Like, we don't care." Like, they're like, "Oh, what do you think of the Four Nations thing?" They're like, "We don't care." That could be a blessing though for the Lightning, with Kucherov and Vasilevsky getting some time off. So hey, we'll make the best of it for sure. Lightning back in action tomorrow night against the Boston Bruins, 7:00 puck drop at Amalie Arena. Make sure you follow him on Twitter /X, Erik_Erlendsson. That's a K, not a C, 2 S's after the D, lightninginsider.com. Sign up today. Use that promo code JNZ. Get $10 off, not just this year, but every recurring year after that. Double E, you're the man. I appreciate you, brother, and I'll see you tomorrow night up in the press box.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks, Jay.